This is a video of a prophetic dream I had 12 years ago, told as a story, fictional. A very scary story. It was the end of the world. As the epidemiologists understood it, the mutant cells were everywhere in everyone. The original pathology could be traced back to a lone black woman in a hospital gown being evaluated for abnormal vaginal bleeding way back in a 1940s clinic. Lying on her back on a gynecologist's table, she had no idea that her cervix had been biopsied, much less that the biopsy showed an aggressive cancer far beyond the treatment options of the time. The woman had rapidly worsened and died, but the cells had not. Named after Helen, the black woman in the stirrups, HeLa cells became a medical mystery. They never died. And because they never died, this immortal cell line was big business. Over the next 50 years, HeLa cell lines became the medium used for vaccines, for growing genetically engineered medicines, and testing new antiviral treatment. The DNA from HeLa cells had been introduced into nearly everyone's gene pool. Then it all changed. A new and deadly plague, long overdue, finally appeared, spreading like wildfire from city to city. It was ironic that another woman of African descent, a biochemist, noticed the ominous pattern of that new plague. She had pieced together the hypothesis that tied the DNA fingerprint found in the blood of the dead and the dying with a specific genetic activation, a turning on of DNA from that original HeLa cell line. The original symptoms of HeLa disease, as it became known, were fever, chills, chest pain, shortness of breath, followed rapidly by respiratory failure and heart failure. This black biochemist was also the one who noticed the increased survival rates among those of African descent. That was when the riots started. All at once, it seemed as if the whole world had gone mad. Hatred and fear created a new style of pogrom. The word on the street was that only inoculation with blood of a plague survivor could provide immunity. Survivors were hunted down like animals. Wealthy Americans hired black ops forces to do their dirty work for them. It was the end of the world. Or was it? It was the end of the world as the epidemiologists understood it. The evolved cells that were everywhere were in everyone. They had originated in the suffering of a lone black woman, biopsied without her consent, dead months later of the cancer for which she had sought healing. But the cells from her body refused to die. As the cells' peculiarities spread into the DNA of every human exposed to them, so did a mysterious consciousness. It was 7 decades before that consciousness made itself known. It was ironic that another woman of African descent, a mystic, heard the voice of that consciousness. "Stay open to me," were the first words the voice in the mystic's head spoke. Spread the word. Tell the people. Activation of HeLa DNA was not a comfortable experience. Like a birth, the participant would experience waves of symptoms over a 1 week to 10-day period of time. Hot flashes, chills, waves of anxiety that could spiral down into hyperventilation, palpitations, and chest pain. And because the mystic was a woman of African descent, she shared the word of the new consciousness with her home communities first. "God is us," she said. "We are here to love one another, not hate or fear." The communities of colored folks sang through their fear and prayed mightily. They found themselves on the other side of this adventure, transformed. Hell on earth intensified. Those who saw the time of transition as a plague experienced a plague. Whites hunted down blacks, and blacks lived in fear, fighting back from the streets of America, and cities ran red with blood. But all the blood was red once it was shed. The color of the human previously attached to it no longer mattered. Scientists raced for a cure, but none materialized. Victims of the plague began to experience a new symptom of visual and auditory hallucinations. A big black woman with a terrifying, sneering leer began to appear in the minds of the fearful. It became identified symptom of the dreaded plague. For a while, the pharmaceutical company had a field day with sedatives, mood stabilizers, and antipsychotics. The wealthy hunkered down in underground laminar airflow sealed rooms, stockpiled with drugs, but the mutation was in everyone. Deaths increase as hopelessness spread. Heaven on earth began to unfold. Those who listened to the mystics' teachings were transforming. They found their hearts opening to each other and experienced huge shifts in consciousness, with waves of empathy at times so profound that it left them breathless and confused. But whenever two or more came together, a heart connection was possible that stabilized their holy terror. The new people left the horror of the cities any way they could. Many began to have visions. A big black woman with a radiant smile who answered them when they spoke to her and always knew what to do and where to go. They banded together in small groups and found that this time of transition was filled with hope and harmony. And so unfolded the drama of the second coming of Christ. Christ consciousness in everyone as a woman, and a women's energy of a woman of color to boot.
May I suggest to you that these might be the times where sharing of land becomes stewardship. I speak for the earth. The earth says, get your shit together, folks.